My childhood was very happy. I grew up in Felsőgöd, my little village north of Budapest, about 27 kilometers on the bank of Danube. Normally, we do sports. We play soccer in an empty lot. We swim on the Danube every day in the summertime, and that was our entertainment. I was about 9 years old that time when Berlin 1936 Olympics was on, and of course we didn't have a TV that time, and we had from the news media and the newspaper how the Hungarian team does, and how Jesse Owens run and get some Olympic medals. And of course we repeat every drama in our neighborhood, empty lot, and everybody want to be Jesse Owens, and we followed the results. And Hungary, as a small country, get 10 gold medals, and we were very proud of it. One time in a soccer coach said, today we will have a little Olympics, and then we run, sprint from one lamppost to the other one, and we throw the shot and javelin and high jump. And of course I was a youngest on the soccer team, and I did very well, and they liked it. And beside the point, right after my high school years, my physics teacher was angry and javelin through her, and he inspired me. And I want to become like him. Yeah. Of course, the war came, and that's my whole dream is shattered. We were in the middle of the Europe, and we had to take side. And of course, we heard about the Russians and the communism, Bolshevism against the Nazi ideas, but Hungary was also occupied by first the Germans, and we had to take their side. Yeah. I remember in 1944, I was in track and field, and my coach said we will have to participate in other city in Hungary for the competition. And my mother said, no, she never complained, but that time she was somehow sensed the danger, and of course I went reluctantly. She let me go, and we competed there. And when I came back from the competition, I heard my older brother died because the Russian threw a bomb down in our house, and he get killed, and probably I wouldn't too. Yeah. I was mad because they destroy our house and they kill my brother, and then I should wait and hope, or you fight for your country. And that time I joined the army, and I said I will do how much I can do and fight. I was in a machine gun, and I was the first shooter. There was 5 people with one machine gun. I was very good by shooting it, and then I decide some of that actions. Yeah. I almost get killed, but I survived. Yeah.
For my dad, he never got to really be an athlete. He volunteered for the army when he was quite young, like 17. He lied about his age to get in because he'd already lost a brother. So he signed up, and went to fight and caught the tail end of the war. And just right after the war was declared over, he was captured by the Russians.
Then the Russians came with jeeps and I remember there was a high-ranking officer, and we stopped and he said, Krieg kaputt, that was the war is over. And he said, Hitler kaputt, because they pronounced the G and I, Russian, and Hitler kaputt. And then he gave us a paper and he said, just go to west and just follow the road. And after this, of course, each units came, they take our watches and everything, you know. I thought this guy was very hostile, and I said, I thought maybe they can line up and shot every third of us or something. And I said to our leader, show that paper, what this high-ranking officer give us a paper. And of course, yes, he read it, and then he showed us to go ahead. So something was in his mind, but he didn't do it because we had a precast from the high-ranking officer that saved us our skin, probably. Of course, then they said we have to go into the camp and everybody will receive a paper document and then go home. And this was a bunch of lie because there was no document. And from there on, they put us in boxcars. This was jammed with people, of course, and not enough food or not enough water. And then they took us to Russia. And this was 12 days trip to the prison camp. Yeah. And all my Olympic dreams, and this was shattered in there because that was my youth, and I thought they don't gonna take us for 2 weeks or a short period of time. And I landed up in there in 5 years. I couldn't eat hardly any food, and I lost all my strength during the 12 days journey, and I just fell off from the wagon when we arrived in the final destination. And I remember we were 600 of us, and we had to line up in 5 in a rows. And the Russian officers went in ahead and he started counting Raz, Dva, Trichet. And by the time he arrived I was in nearly the end of the column, I collapsed. And of course, then he said, what's going on? Что такое? What is it? Our friends pull me out and they get on my feet, and but he forget the count. And then, of course, he was embarrassed and went against in the head and start all over again. Raz, dva, tri, četiri. And by the time he get into my thing, I collapse again. And he forget the count again. And he was mad and embarrassed because and he kicked me out from the columns, and they put me to a wagon, went through in the dirt road, and both sides was very nice green field, and the little Russian kids are running around, and I thought, not long ago, in my own country, in barefooted, I run around in a clean pasture, and now I am guilty for the Second World War. That was a hard time to take, yeah. The food was just minimal, and there was just 17 of us get one bread, and this wasn't enough. We get 600 of us, and we arrived there in 1945, June 12, and by September, from the 600, 400 died in malnutrition, dysentery, edema, and malaria, and not enough food, of course. And I was in the remaining 200, but again in very poor condition, and I couldn't hardly walk, never mind to work. Yes. Then we get into a bigger camp in Bryansk. And from there, they take us to the forest. I remember a Kyrgyz officer said, "Koni kaput, the horses are dead. Vybuditse koni, you will be the horse." So they harnessed in front of the sleigh, and we pull it out to the forest, and that was pre-cut wood. We have to load it up and then pull it to the railway station, which was about 10 miles, and then unload it to the boxcars. Yeah. That was very tough because the winter came, and this was 42 below zero, and all day outside in the snow. That was a terrible time, yeah. In 1945, I was in a bread factory, and finally I regained my strength because I had extra food in there. And in communist countries, in May 1st, that was a celebration. They have big rallies and demonstration and all this event. And in the camp, the officers organized a soccer game and the shot put competition. And I said, enter me, please. And that was 26 entries, and I was only Hungarian in there. But the guys from the kitchen and from the bread cutting place, the strongest guys were there. That was an international competition because there was many different nations, Slovakians and Poles and Germans, and I was only Hungarians. And finally, I had better technique. Some guys were stronger than me, but I had better technique. And in the last throw, I managed to throw over 30 meters or something like this, but that was enough. And the officers were so happy, and they put me on their shoulder and they carried me to the camp. And then that was the first prize. And they didn't have a medal, but this is a hand carved, some of that my fellow prisoners was very good, and this was the first prize I got, yeah.
I think George winning the shot put competition in the camps was kind of like winning the Olympics for him. He knew his opportunity to make the Olympics was over, and this was as close as he might get to a competition like that. And to be lifted up on their shoulders after and celebrated, that must have been a very uplifting moment for him in the camps to, be able to kind of chase his dreams for a brief second. And it's crazy to think that he would still be in the camps for 3 more years after that competition.
They take us to the boxcars, and of course that was closed, because that time the Russians were still in Hungary after the Second World War, and they get communism in Hungary, and of course we were not very welcome in home. Your own home, you were one time in a situation you could die your country, and now this country didn't really like you. So they took us, when we arrived, through the borderline. I remember the Russian guard left and they said, "Do svidaniya, vashi pridot." They said, "See you again. Yours coming." And the Hungarian guards, I said, "If we're going home, why we need the guards?" So that was very funny. But nevertheless, we were very happy, and we sing the national anthem through the borderline, and then 2 Hungarian guard came and with the rifles, and they said, "You better shut up or be quiet," And I said, "Welcome home." And of course, again, we get into the camp in Hungary, and we were undesirable elements because we fought against the Russians one time earlier in the wartime. And we'll end up in a jail in Budapest. And then the officer said from the jail, if you shut your mouth, if you don't want to come back. And they walked through Budapest and the same line where I used to go to the high school, but the name was Lenin Avenue, and I said, well, this is, that was a disappointment, yeah. I went to Felsőgöd, I jumped over my fence because that was a change lock, and I said, I am home. And she just looked at me and she said, Tibor? Because my brother's name was Tibor, who was in the front line. I said, no, George. She didn't recognize me. But she said, last I heard of you were killed by the train, and I didn't expect you. And then my sister came, and she said to my mother, I will come back when this stranger's gonna go. And then she walked out. She didn't recognize me either. So I said in a wee out, hey, this is me. Yeah. So all your reunion, you think that's gonna be a very positive and very happy event, and this wasn't, because they didn't recognize me. Yeah. I landed up in Gander, Newfoundland, in a plane, and then to Winnipeg, and from Winnipeg we get through to the Trans-Canadian Railway. And interestingly, I never see a land like this. Miles and miles, no one living through the prairie. And we find out we'll end up in Lethbridge. The freedom was just, you can walk anywhere in the street, nobody. I was 10 years always under restriction. And that was the most important things. And I used to walk, just run the street and turn left if you want to turn left, because that was so nice to me, because that was always restricted what you do. And freedom is, we don't realize how important in us, yeah, because we born in here, we did, yeah.
He, I think, recognized how weak and frail he was from years of malnutrition and work and labor and suffering, that he decided he would help other people become athletes rather than himself. And he started to coach and put his energy into that.
I thought maybe somebody else can do what I dreamed to do.
After moving to Lethbridge, I think George noticed there was a void that needed to be filled in the track scene in Lethbridge. and also in himself. You know, he always wanted to pursue track as an athlete, but now he wasn't able to. So he now had to change his goals, and he started to coach. So he filled that void, and he took that role, and he started a club, and from there he could still pursue his love of track and field.
The first club was Lethbridge Legion Track and Field Club. In 1958, I have some money, and then I get a tracksuit for the athletes, and they get membership. I think that $1 was a membership for the year.
My dad worked all day at his draftsman job, and then his second job, and he treated it as such, was to go to his track training practices.
The timing was always 5 o'clock, right after his work and our classes. We would meet at the Lethbridge Civic Center, 5 o'clock on the little hill. And he would have worked out programs for all of us. We would all warm up together on the Civic Center field.
That happened like clockwork, just like his day job.
And then we each had our own assignments. Some of us, there were maybe 2 or 3 doing the same things. And then we did lots of intervals. The workouts were always well thought out. You could tell he'd put a lot of thought into what we were to do. We would go to the Cooley Hills and run hills frequently. So we learned discipline.
That old school Eastern European training mentality of you go till you puke. Like you go, you give it your all no matter what, and come back and do it again the next day.
He was a larger-than-life person. He was a coach that everyone completely revered. It was obvious that this guy was somebody.
This is one of the many things George Gamer loves to do. Over the past 35 years, George has coached hundreds, even thousands of fencing and track and field athletes.
George didn't do it for the money, certainly not for the money, and the relationship that they developed with the athletes was beyond what normal coaches in the other sports would have.
Oh, he loved the athletes. I can think back when I was a kid to many track and field parties in our house, spaghetti dinners and house shakers, where he just loved to party with his athletes, but make them work hard. And he adopted them like family. They would run in the mountains together, they would run in the coulees together, they would have parties together, they would travel together. You know, I think he acts like a father figure, not just a coach, but a friend and a mentor. He loved coaching, loved the people.
George was a very respected coach nationally and internationally. And his hard work in coaching and building the sport of track and field earned him a place in the U of L Hall of Fame, the Lethbridge Sports Hall of Fame, and the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame. And he's also awarded an honorary doctorate degree from the University of Lethbridge.
It was a hell of a long and difficult journey for me to end up here in this uplifting ceremony. My relentless and concentrated effort resulted in all my dreams coming true and goals being achieved.
George really applied the same level of dedication and resilience that he used in the prison camps to his life and to his coaching. And that ultimately led to the great success that he's had in the sport of track and field. He was the Olympic Technical Coordinator for the 1976 Olympics and coached at the 1972 USA National Track and Field Clinic. He coached numerous national teams, and he's written articles in some of the biggest track and field magazines.
Remember, when a word pushes you down to your knees, you are in a perfect position to pray. God bless you all.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to take away from George helping me along the way as a coach was just that whole aspect of you're always rewarded with hard work, and I think that was one of the things that really took home. I think most athletes realize that they took home from George. So this past summer in Paris was my 6th Olympics as a coach. The first one was in 2008 with Jim Stacey as the first hammer thrower to make the Olympic Games since I think 1926 or something.
I was very fortunate as well with Larry, having been coached himself by George, that training mentality and that expectation of you give it your all every day no matter what, transferred into him, and then in turn transferred into myself and my training partners with the U of L and with the Chinook Track and Field Club. So his reach went everywhere. It's very humbling to be part of that ripple effect from one person, and to be part of such an important legacy that he's created here, and the legacy that will continue on from what he's done.
He's got a fingerprint in a couple places in the city. There's a statue in front of the Yates Memorial Center that was his way of trying to thank the people of southern Alberta who accepted refugees, and acknowledging that there were many Hungarians that settled here in southern Alberta and in Lethbridge. And there's a falcon of freedom that is a symbol of freedom in Hungary, the Turu Madar, they call it. And he wanted that to be erected as a thank you to the people of southern Alberta for accepting refugees like himself.
He'd always wanted to have athletic monuments, statues, pictures, that kind of thing. That meant a lot to him.
He wanted to have a metal statue of a javelin thrower at the university where he taught for 47 years. And he wanted that, again, as a thank you for what the university provided for him in allowing him to teach there. So he put a statue, with the help of my mother, on the university grounds that has a beautiful picture of my mom and dad together when they were young, holding a javelin, posing together. That wasn't his primary work. He was a draftsman by trade, but that was his labor of love. He wasn't paid much. When you worked it out, he was paid cents on the hour. but he loved doing it, and he loved teaching and influencing young people and trying to help them better themselves.
You could just tell by walking into their house that they lived and breathed both sport and community. You could tell that they had hosted many times. Every piece of furniture, every little thing in the house just spoke of a story, and you went into that house just wanting to learn more about George and Carol.
The book is a true account of the hardships faced by a young Hungarian as he struggled to survive in the Soviet labor camps. His name is George Gamer, and George joins us this morning. Good to have you with us. George, why did you decide to write your memories and your memoirs in this book?
Well, over some beers, some of my friends always ask me about my experience, and they thought this is unique, and we have to be written down, and also for my wife and my kids to know about their father a little more than he would otherwise.
George was eventually convinced by his friends and family that he needed to write his stories down so they would not be forgotten once he's gone. So he eventually wrote a book, and I've had the pleasure of reading it, and just being able to read his story start to finish is a lot different than hearing his stories that he tells at the dinner table or, whenever we visit him. So reading his full story start to finish with all the details has been, very eye-opening for me to know his true story.
Field at the university?
Yeah. I first knew George as my coach. I didn't know that he was a survivor until I saw him at the farmer's market, and I bought this. And so it's the second time I've read it. I saw a lot of different things in here about hope and where you might have grabbed it, because when you hit all those limits and you come out the other side, there's a lot of studies done on people who've survived similar circumstances, and they have an unexplainable hope and zest for life. And I think it's because they came so close to their own death. And I realized this time reading it how much of it was about what made you a great leader and a great coach. But one thing that you taught me was the limits of my physicality. Like, you can push yourself, and you actually in this book is a description of pushing the human body to its absolute limits when it's starving. And you learned in an unfortunate way the limits of a human body, but you brought that to your coaching and to your life in a way that inspired other people. And I'm just one of many athletes that you brought that to.
In George's life, he spent so long inspiring other people to take part in sport.
I'd say the biggest factor in how George has influenced my athletic career is honestly just the values that he taught to my mom. And that has been subsequently passed down to me. Having parents who valued that, who encouraged me to try out sports, who were able to take me to training, to practices, to competitions. That was probably the biggest factor in getting me into sports and keeping me there. He's shown me that if you're able to push through and keep your head up high, that good times, good things will come back to you. Having that also reflected in both my mom, my dad, and my brother, like all of us, we have our own athletic journey that we're going on, and it's very cool to walk that kind of same path with each other. I know it's a very rare thing for a whole family to step into the gym together.
My grandfather is definitely one of my biggest inspirations in my life and in my athletic career. I definitely wouldn't have been able to get to the places I've been in CrossFit if it wasn't for his influence on my family. He's taught me to push myself to higher limits and hold myself to a higher standard. Whenever I'm struggling in training or in a hard workout and I need some inspiration and courage, I imagine myself in his position in the prison camps, probably on the verge of death, starving, and he still had hope and he still pushed through that. So if he can do that, I know I can get myself through those hard moments. You know, I can give a little bit more and push a little harder because I know my grandpa gave everything that he had to survive.
Tara and I, we both wanted to make the Olympics, and we both trained as hard as we could to get there, but ultimately it wasn't in our cards. I had some unfulfilled dreams of track and field. And down the road, I ended up finding out that there was a World Championships in Sweden. And I kind of thought to myself, this might be a way to kind of complete that circle. And I actually threw reasonably well. I didn't throw a PB, but I threw some of the best throws in my career there. And really, I would say that George has inspired me a lot in this way, because when I watch what he's done and what he's doing right now, he really does make you realize that age is just a number and that your athletic dreams don't have to end in your youth. They just have to change as you get older.
I ended up getting into track and field where my dad coached. So I did track and field from about the age of 14 till into my university years. I was a junior national champion. I, traveled on a few national teams. I got to compete for Canada and got to compete a bit more overseas as well. Training with my dad didn't allow excuses about why you couldn't do something. He just pushed you hard. And when I got into road racing, I was fortunate to make it to qualify to run the Boston Marathon the year after the bombing. And that was a very emotional and quite an experience to be there, especially that year. After that, then I got into CrossFit and followed my son into that sport and ended up making it to the CrossFit Games, which is kind of the pinnacle of that sport. So that was a pretty amazing experience.
Look to the future. Let us continue to come together as a community, celebrating the spirit. Can we get a big round of applause?
Pushed me in ways that I'd never done before. It was taking me really far outside of my comfort zone, but it was fun to do that. And I was excited and started to believe in things in myself that I didn't think prior that I would ever be able to do. You had to be tougher than you thought you could be. And I think my dad taught me that. And with some of the experiences he's had in his life, you knew there was no room to complain because he'd been through things that had threatened his life. So if you didn't think you could run a little faster or push a little harder, you just had to find that place where you could. And I learned that from my dad.
It's amazing to see how good of shape George is in at 97 years old. To be able to host your own birthday party at your own house, invite all your friends over, is very rare. So I think he's truly blessed to have the people around him to celebrate that with him.
It's my honor to be call George a good friend, that's for sure.
In a book that he wrote, he put a dedication in there, and he put to my former athlete and friend. And so I grew from a person who thought of him as a coach, and so he only trained me till in the early 70s, yet our connection has continued right up to this very day.
He has stood up in many weddings as the best man for some of his athletes.
One of the characteristics that I most admire about George is his ability to bring a room together and to make everybody in that room smile and laugh along with him.
Getting my dad to throw the shot put again has been a little bit of a project of mine and Mark's for a few years. For his birthday a few years ago, I bought him a shot put.
Oh! Oh! 3 kilos?
Yep.
Oh.
See, it's pretty light, isn't it? There's no excuse now. Now you got a training shirt and a shot put.
And I think partly we had been looking at Masters results, being that we were getting back into competing as Masters, and had toyed around with the idea of what would it be like for my dad to pick up the shot and maybe test himself in a way that he challenged his athletes to test themselves. You know, in his late life now, wouldn't it be awesome if he's still in such good health and so physically strong and active for his age, that wouldn't it be awesome to get him to pick up the shot put and try it again?
But I think what it took for him to actually do the throw was when we sat him down and said, you know, it's time. You've inspired so many people over your life. It's our turn. Here's the shot. We're going to get you throwing now. And I think he wanted to, but I think it took just that nudge to get him going.
We are here because you've inspired us all on our fitness journey. And you, even though you couldn't be an athlete in your day, you have inspired many people through your coaching, through the years, and through us. So it's made us work hard. I'm glad you found your little shot put. Because you're entered into the spring meet this next weekend.
Yeah. Oh.
The throws gala. All you gotta do is go check one.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you'd probably break a Canadian record if you did.
You're looking You'd be pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah, and I think you might be the oldest Athletics Alberta member right now. Because all the numbers are put up with like, what they start off with the year of birth. So mine's like 7-0, yours is 2-7. So you probably have the oldest.
And you think of all the people that are going to be at that throws gala, like Larry, and you look at all the people he's coached now and continuing your legacy. So wouldn't it be kind of fitting for you to go back and show him how to do it?
Yeah.
Little shot, little discus.
Little
And a little celebration after. Because how many people your age can even walk out there, let alone pick up a shot and do it? So
it wasn't even 2 or 3 minutes before he said, okay, if I'm going to throw, let's go out in the backyard and let's start throwing. And he went out and started training.
nice, that was solid. We got it ready. I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 Spring Throws Gala. The Chinook Track and Field Club will be welcoming to the University of Lethbridge athletes aging from 13 years old to 97 years old. How crazy is that? Athletes will be participating in discus, shot put, javelin, and hammer throw, so there will be plenty of action to follow along with.
Some very special competitors coming out of retirement to return to the circle once again.
Competing at the Throws Gala this year was, I would say, one of the most fun competitions I've ever had. Just getting to throw with Mark and Andreas and Jillian and all of the younger athletes that are up and coming right now. It was a lot of fun to just be in the circle again, and I'm so glad I did it.
George is looking to break the record in the shot put for the 95 plus age group, which is a throw of 5.9 meters. And it's crazy to think that even at 97, he's still trying to break records.
Meters, 22.
Hey, congratulations.
Even though George didn't break the record, what I saw on that day was a way bigger gift than a record. He had all the people around him, all of his family, his friends, and they were all cheering him on, wishing for him to, do his best. And even if he didn't, they were still gonna support him no matter what.
It was pretty surreal to see someone that has raised me and my entire family to be out there in front of hundreds of people, throwing and just with utmost confidence, and he just still got out there and just amazed us all. And it was just super inspiring to see that, yeah, your dreams never go away and your passions. And
it really does inspire me to watch George do what he does at 97. Most of us and all of us only dream to make it to 97. And we are trying as hard as we can to stay young, and to watch George be 97 years young, that's just a whole nother level that we're trying to get to.
And so it really hammers that fact home that it is super important to stay active physically.
Watching him throw reminded me that age is no barrier and that attitude is everything.
To see everyone support my dad at that throws gala in the spring was the best part of that day. But I think to be surrounded by the people that came to support him, old athletes of his, people who he coached through the years, people who he probably yelled at and made them run around the track fast, to have them come out and support him in that pursuit was the best gift. I can't put into words what that felt like for me, to watch him with all those people around him who took time out of their day to come out to the track and support him and cheer. That's the best gift. I think I always told my kids that winning a gold medal wouldn't feel like anything if nobody was happy for you. Being last might be the best thing if everybody's there cheering for you. I think I use that message to try to instill in them that to be a good competitor, you want to be a good person. You want to be somebody that people want for you to do well, that they want you to be successful because they love you. And to see all those people gather at the spring meet and want for him to be successful, oh, that was a great gift.
What I saw was a 97-year-old throwing and challenging himself and having the courage to step up there with all the younger athletes to compete. And that really makes me super proud to be his grandson, and I think he's truly a legend for that.
Hey, George.
Hi, George.
Hi, George.
George.
I just want to let you know how much I appreciate having you in my life as my coach and especially as my friend.
Without your legacy, my life as an athlete and now coach isn't what it is today. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your contributions to track and field in the city.
You've helped me connect to my Hungarian roots and made me proud of where I come from. You've cheered me on in the throwing circle and beyond and showed me that if I put my mind to it, I can achieve anything. I am where I am today because you've inspired me and helped me to believe in myself.
The first time I visited you, you gave me a t-shirt that said, "Destiny is not a chance but a choice. It is to be achieved, not waited for." This inspired me, just as your story, in sport and in my life. I'll never forget that.
Thank you for teaching me the importance of hard work, the importance of community, perseverance, fun, and laughter. Thank you for all of your stories, for each one had a life lesson.
As a young teen, I'd never met anyone as inspirational as George. His war stories and what the hell work ethic motivated many of us to become the athletes we never believed we could be.
He was my coach, my mentor, and my inspiration. Thank you, George. Agashigadreg.
I met George the year he turned 80 when he was our fencing instructor at the university. One thing he's taught me is that positive perspective is everything, and to live life to the fullest because tomorrow is never promised.
George laughed with his athletes and he said, "What the hell? If I put a machine gun to your head, you'll run all day and you'll never be tired." And we laughed and ran on, and only years later did we realize that George was speaking from his lived experience.
George is my friend, coach, mentor, father figure, and the Pronghorn track and field team of the mid-1970s always looked forward to the suggested compulsory workouts.
Your ethos, George, still inspires. You're the man. I love you, George.